Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn. In today's episode, we're talking about John Rhys Plumlee, quarterback out of Central Florida. We're going to be looking at him based on his production data, his mobile quarterback score, regular quarterback score, to kind of see what he might look like as an NFL player. Plumlee was a dual athlete at Ole Miss, playing baseball and football before transferring to UCF. And he also set Ole Miss records for rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and total touchdowns by a freshman, and the most rushing yards in a season by a quarterback in Ole Miss history. So, pretty impressive overall resume, at least for a mobile quarterback. Looking at the mobile quarterback score, so if you're new to the channel, new to the stuff that I do, the mobile quarterback score takes into account raw statistics that are then transformed into market share data. So like you take the total yardage of a quarterback compared to the team total, and then that gives you a market share number, and then that's compared to every single quarterback performance over the course of the data set that was used. The main numbers I use to make the mobile quarterback score is the offensive market share score, which is basically their yardage of the total offense, touchdown market share of total touchdowns on the team in terms of rushing. Touchdown percentage score is how often they got a touchdown when the ball was in their hands when they were rushing, and then the average yards per touch score takes into account how many yards per touch they had as a quarterback. All these numbers are added together, percentile score, to give you the mobile quarterback score, which is like a general relative score for how mobile they were, how often they were part of the rushing offense. And when you look at that particular score for Plumlee, it's easy to see 90 plus percentile in terms of most of those metrics for him as a quarterback. And then when you look at the quarterback score, which is the touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, those numbers are then compared against positional peers on the 10-year sample. You add in things like the strength of schedule, the strength of team, to give you context for the production, and then that's where you get the quarterback scores. Plumlee was not that great in terms of his quarterback scores. He had a 55.04 in terms of his best quarterback score, and his average or career quarterback score was 51.69 out of 100. This is based out of 5,359 college football quarterback performances since the 1956 NFL draft class. So a lot of quarterbacks in that database. He's not that great in terms of his passing efficiency. And these are the quarterbacks that tested similar to him based on his data. So he tested similar to guys like Brad Smith, Brett Smith, Jake Locker, Colin Kaepernick, to name a few. Bob Davis at the very bottom. And of course, Malik Cunningham was a recent guy from last year. So not a lot of great quarterbacks on this list. And of course, Sage Rosenfeld's at the bottom. But when you look at the data for him, he profiles as a backup to starter prospect based on his production profile. Quarterbacks with this profile tend to either switch positions and play wide receiver, or they become inconsistent mobile quarterbacks. After seeing Plumlee on film, he's not the most consistent player in terms of as a passer, but he could be an interesting weapon in the right offense. The best path to starting that I see for Plumlee is he could be the next Julian Edelman. Edelman was a very athletic quarterback out of Kent State who went on to, of course, develop into a starting wide receiver at the NFL level. Will Plumlee get the same opportunities as Edelman? We'll see. But I think when you look at his overall data and like what he brings to the table, I'm surprised more people haven't brought him up. He's not exactly a quarterback per se. Like I wouldn't necessarily want to. I mean, maybe you might want to develop him, but for the most part, he kind of is that type of guy where you look at the data, you look at what he does well, which is on the ground as a rusher. Maybe you turn him into that at the next level because he was very impressive on film in terms of just his athletic ability, his ability to make people miss, and those other sort of things. So he may not necessarily be a quarterback in terms of passing the football long term, but you could at least get him to do, become something at the next level, in terms of being a yards after the catch type of guy. I think he could do really well in terms of yak, especially with his ability there. So that is John Rhys Plumlee's outlook as a quarterback. I think he's a huge sleeper in this class at the quarterback position. because again, a lot of people are kind of racking their heads on how to use them, but it's clear you've seen the path for this type of player. Brad Smith is an example of that. Edelman is an example of that. Like the path to him becoming an NFL starter is there. It's just a team willing to invest in him to kind of get to that level, I think is the biggest thing with him. So with all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. My name is Jim Coburn. You can also check out my other work at patreon.com/jcoburn. That's JCOBERN. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.